I had the pause on a little bit. It's okay. It's working right now. It's by hand, which is a kick. I may have to keep my... Okay, the record light comes on and it stays on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let's see. Testing. The counter is at 9. Let's see, here's the stop. Okay, let's see. The counter is at 2. Moving to 3. Today is November 17th, 1987. My name is Rebecca Sharpless, and I'm interviewing for the first time Kathy Masterson. The interview is taking place in the law office of
Stanford, Fagan, and Giolito.
Thank you. I hadn't bothered to write all those names down. It's at 1401 Peachtree in Atlanta, Georgia. And Kathy has graciously consented to give me some time on her lunch hour to talk about changes in the office technology. And you are affiliated with 9 to 5 Working Women in Atlanta. I guess the way to start is just to start with a real general question. What changes do you think have taken place in the office place as regard particularly to computerization?
One of the first things that I've noticed is that the volume of work has drastically increased, that there is nothing, nowhere approximates what it used to be. I worked in a law firm before computers were added, and then right as they were being added, and after, and the volume of work for both the attorneys and for the support personnel just almost doubled in the same amount of time. And the attorneys became aware that they'd be constantly revised, whatever they did, so that instead of, on their part, taking longer, they would, kind of slap it down, and then you would have to, then it was constant revision. So now instead of something being done right the first time, it's more, and so sometimes it's even more time consuming. But it seems to me that the work is doubled. I think that that's primarily it. To me, it's with the changes. It's not that much easier. I guess it is easier than it used to be to spell check and things like that. The irritating things are gone. The typos and stuff like that. You can always use the technology to do that. And certainly, in a lot of ways, it demands more out of me second control. And the other attorneys here have computers too, so they're also aware of how long. They're a little bit more literate, and we can send briefs now over the computers to clients and things like that. And so that's real interesting to me that you can use that. You can use it to make airline reservations and things like that. You can go in and scan and things like that. So it's given us so much more information. It's almost difficult to do how much more information you get out of it. It gives you more options to go through and more confused.
Okay. When I think about legal work, a lot of times I think about things like typing the same contract over again. How much of that did you do when you were working with the typewriter?
Not as much, because I was just starting out. So I started working in law firms about 10 years ago, so I was just starting out when computers were starting to use the little memory disks, and stuff like that. So, and I did personal injury, so it wasn't quite as bad as say contracts or real estate or something like that. But I think that it just took off when they had those little Memorex disks, and then the first word processor came in, when I really started in processing, and it just boom. Then it was unbelievable to see, that you could, an attorney could revise constantly, as those programs have become easier and easier to work, and the options are greater for you. So it's just, and you can turn out something that looks typesetted. And I think it's certainly added to the volume of litigation, because you can't think it's that much more available to do these things that because the courts are fogging up with technology. But they're able to do it now. And certainly I think it
day do you spend on average at the screen?
I believe around 5. Going back and forth because I do other things too. I do all the books and things like that. And that's one thing I'm trying to get my boss to let me do is start doing it on the computer because it's so laborious to do it by hand and I could do it in half the time. And I think he's kind of, he knows how to do it, so it's almost as if he doesn't want to let go of that knowledge, that he feels like that that's one of the things that makes him a loss is that he knows how to do these things. And he said, if I can do that and go, well, just keep doing it by hand. So it's almost he doesn't want to let go of that. He's the most confused idiot. He's very good at computer. I mean, he can take and stuff like that. And so he's unusual, I think. I mean, I think that most attorneys just use him as a tool, but he really enjoys, he enjoys all the aspects of programming and stuff like that. So he's more conscious of what the abilities can do. And one of the things that we've been fussing about is that he wants me to stay on the machine that I'm on, which is the word processor, even though I can do computers, because he wants that to just be that one sole thing, and all the other attorneys want me to do it on the PCs because I can access all the different printers and that. So it's almost he wants me to kind of, how to use the women should do the internet, or women should just be secretaries and stuff like that. He sees it as a way for me to stand. I think he's not really ready for that to happen.
You mean you have a dedicated word processor and everybody else is networked?
Right. So he doesn't want me into that role that he attorneys do. And I'll confirm with it, and then Bob, and he'll say, I know, but right now it's not a good time, and okay, but I've been teaching myself the programming on my own, so it's, I'm going to kind of put in what they accomplish, and okay, well, now what are you going to do? And then go, but it's been real interesting to me, because I've always been pushed, learn it, do it. And I think he understands the real knowledge of code situation.
I was going to say, how much of it do you think is an issue of control?
It's, I think, 90% of it is he just doesn't, because all the other things are so full. Some ways the balance of power between him and them, it's just kind of interesting to me to see him do it, because I know that he knows, and that he doesn't want to deal with it, he just gets a little emotional. Not right now, and stuff, so I go, okay. But I figured by Christmas he should be slowly but surely. We did have a law clerk here who was using it. She was great. She had been a legal secretary for a long time. But she was really fast, and she could just come in and just do rules, and that was really nice. But for one reason or another, that didn't work out on her machine. It's just sitting in there. Because it's just a I think that the expectations are raised so much of what your work should be, and it's much, much more difficult, and you have to perform at a much higher level. To be able, I can remember doing a court of appeals brief that would take me 2 days before, and I'm supposed to do it in a day. So and it's supposed to be perfect and look as if it were typeset and all that, And so I think that that's something that is real difficult with your expectations, and at least your boss's expectations. Expect to come much quicker and to be more perfect.
I was going to say, how did you get the message that it was supposed to be done in a day?
Well, he's saying, he needs to go out tonight, so it's, you just have to say, okay, and you just stay here. I knew that it would probably come down to that, because he said, oh, then we'll do it on the house. He doesn't at all deal with one, so the bosses. And so I think that he has certain expectations about how long, because he just looks at it, and so he thinks because you have a computer or whatever, it's really compacted, it just should get done, and it's not that, you still have to input, and sometimes it takes even longer to make it look just right as you do something. But it's real helpful, because Morris is very good at English, and he's very good at editing and stuff like that, so he can help with that too. So it goes through like 2 or 3 people, and then the other attorneys, this is kind of a communal group here, and they do a lot of stuff together.
Is there any office?
There are five, but one of them just kind of rents space, but he's more of a close friend, he knows the women and stuff. It really is a high proportion return to clerks, but that's in a way good, because they only give you,
And they can do a lot of it themselves.
and they do, if it were just something simple like that. I was talking with a girlfriend who's a court reporter, she's on computer, and she went, it was initially enormously expensive to get in, I think it was like $3,000 for to hook into the computer, but now she can get, she's 25, and she was making 52,000 a year, just by going, and she'd been making about 40 before, just by doing it on the computer, so it ups your work, but it's, at the same time, it's like, I think it makes you kind of freer and more stressed out in the day when you're sitting in classes.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. It's 5 hours at the monitor a day. What kind of physical effects have you noticed?
I had 5 miscarriages before, and I'm convinced that that had something to do with it. I'm not positive, and we can't prove it. When I was able to keep this baby, I was very careful not to have this pregnant with him. And they kept saying, oh, there's no way to prove it. It's like, well, it's past, there's nothing that you can do about it.
You had 5 miscarriages?
Yes. And that was at a job where I was working on the process of 8 or 9 hours a day. And so I got into the habit, every time I just turned it off. You just turn it off and shut it off and get up and walk away from the desk and stuff like that. And I really think that helped. And I had other problems that were, and I get headaches, but it's not that bad. I think that, now they have the monitor screens and the one that we chose, even that word processor, the was chosen because it was all on initials. Something awful. So, there are times you want to throw it to them, but it's not that bad. It's not that bad. I'm not sure that
How did you decide to go into legal secretary work when you finished your BA?
I was in Covington, Louisiana, and it was the only job in town, so it was not hard to, Covington had about 2,000 people. The women there worked because their husbands all worked offshore, and they didn't have, they were supposed to stay home when their husbands came home, they were supposed to be there, everything, so, I just really couldn't stand it. My husband was advisor, he didn't work for 3 or 4 months, and I just couldn't stand to sit down, so I just said no. I don't want to do it all, and there was a great person in Truro, and did a lot of things, a lot of, federal law. So I went to him for him, and then he split up with his partner, so I moved into downtown LA and worked for the papers. So that was fun. It's certainly the, it was the parties from it was a good time. We had Antoine's files and Cape Hall and stuff like that, so we had a pretty good time. That was fine for a while, and I got pregnant with baby, so. And I feel real lucky to have this job because as I said, employees, that being good about my child safety. They're really good.
Do you feel that your skills are better on the computer, or were they better when you were on
Much.
typewriter?
Probably I made less errors when I was on the typewriter, but that's such a small part of it. I think I couldn't imagine doing because I think the whole field has changed so much. You can't just deny it to the launch if I change numbers that are places in a week, so all you can do is just keep on trying to get better at it, and utilize it more. I don't know, and just look at it as just part of the job. It's not that big a deal. You have to have it. There's no way that you can function without it or compete without it. So you might as well just make things
Do you know women who have tried to find it?
Yeah, I did. And I did it first and I was scared. I thought, oh, I'll never do this. I thought you had to have that computer mentality. Sometimes those people were like hackers or something, they were all different, but now, I can't imagine. But it was good. I can remember taking a job like that, oh yeah, I know how to do that. No idea what I was doing, and going home every night and trying to figure it out, having the book on my lap underneath the desk, stuff like that, so you could sit down.
Why did you do that?
Well, because I figured I needed the job, and I
Yeah.
just figured, like, I'll learn it, and I think that more than anything, and I learned it in weeks, it's not that bad, it really isn't. Certainly I don't do anything very complicated. I guess word perfect is a little more complicated. It's nothing that difficult. It's just practice. It's just learning a little bit, to retrain your fingers well and setting your processes better. So just take it on more people. You don't think about what you're doing. You just do it.
What do you think is the most difficult part about being legal secretary?
I think it's the pressure, I think under a time when a doctor has certain malpractice constraints, he needs to perform a certain way. Lawyers have certain malpractice constraints, and if things aren't filed on time, or something is mislaid, or something that has a lot of responsibility in that, you cannot, it has to be perfect. You can't, just like a doctor has to be perfect, and you have certain negligence requirements and all that. There's always keep running the back of their mind, because I've seen attorneys where a case should have been filed on time, it wasn't filed, and they can sue or something like that. And that's not as much of a problem here, but it's if you make a mistake or something doesn't get mailed properly, or we have to keep records of everything that we do. Every piece of mail that hits the office has to be recorded, and stuff like. So that's, to me, the hardest, just to be. You have to just be very careful about everything that you do. You can't just race through something.
We've covered this very quickly. I'm trying to think if there are any questions that I have that you really haven't put in a nutshell very well. The first time you went on computer, was that when you trained yourself?
Yeah. I said I could do it. The word processor was IBM, and it just was awful, and I had no idea.
This was in Covington?
Yeah. It worked eventually. I think they kind of made it. I enjoyed that. Personal injury was a lot of contact with clients, and either you can do that or you can, you just have to know it like that. And that was something I really enjoyed doing. So I think they figured as long as I think I was doing it, the clients didn't want to go over it for the other stuff. It's federal court is a lot more example, because I had a degree that I like that. I think that for some reason it's kind of a cliche, and I'm not really understand why, but it is. So I think in some ways they're very confusing, which was worse. Yeah, it's not that hard. I enjoy it, and I can't wait to learn more. And Bob said, after I may be able to do some, go ahead and take a course and stuff like that, so we can get the financial stuff. I just have fun. But if that's all you got, that's fine.
Well, okay, I appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks.